The night air rests gently over the Nile. The river moves quietly through the darkness, carrying cool water beneath a sky filled with pale stars. Along the riverbanks, clusters of mudbrick homes sleep beneath the fading warmth of the day. Palm leaves barely move in the soft breeze. Somewhere in the distance, a dog lets out a single bark before settling once more into silence. Most of the people of Egypt are asleep now. Farmers rest on woven mats after long days beneath the sun. Fishermen sleep near their boats pulled onto the riverbank. Bakers dream beside ovens that have finally gone cold. Builders stretch tired limbs after carrying stone and clay beneath the endless heat. Yet before dawn arrives, before the first light touches the eastern horizon, a few people will already be awake. Among them is a scribe. His work is not famous. No songs are written about him. No statues stand in his honor. His name will not be remembered by future generations. But for one long day, from sunrise until darkness returns, he will sit and record grain deliveries. Hour after hour. Line after line. Basket after basket. It is not exciting work. It is not important enough to become legend. Yet it is the kind of work that quietly holds an entire kingdom together. And tonight, as the stars shine softly above the river, we will spend a day beside him. We will sit where he sits. We will watch the dust rise from the road. We will hear the shuffle of sandals. We will feel the slow passing of time beneath the Egyptian sun. The eastern horizon slowly grows lighter. The stars begin to fade. A pale gray glow spreads across the desert. The village wakes gradually. There is no sudden rush. No loud beginning. Instead, the world seems to stretch itself awake one small movement at a time. A woman rises to grind grain. A fisherman checks the knots on his net. A child turns over in sleep before opening sleepy eyes. Smoke begins rising from cooking fires. The scent of baking bread drifts through narrow streets. Goats stir inside small pens. Roosters announce the coming day. The scribe wakes before most others. His home is simple. The walls are made from dried mud brick. The roof is flat. The rooms are small and practical. There is little decoration. Most ordinary people in Egypt lie this way. He sits up slowly. The air still feels cool. For a brief moment, before the heat arrives, the world is comfortable. He washes with water stored in a clay jar. He eats a simple meal. A piece of bread. A few dates. Perhaps a small onion. Nothing heavy. The work ahead will require patience more than strength. Soon he gathers his tools. A wooden writing palette. Small cakes of black and red ink. Reed pens. Sheets of papyrus. Simple things. Yet they represent years of learning. Most people cannot write. Most workers never hold a reed pen. The ability to record words and numbers is a specialized skill. The scribe knows this. He also knows that today will not involve poetry, religious texts, or royal messages. Today will involve grain. An enormous amount of grain. He steps outside. The sky has become pale blue. Birds move through the air above the river. The village is fully waking now. People begin walking toward fields. Others head toward workshops. Some carry tools over their shoulders. Others balance baskets upon their heads. The day has begun. The storage complex stands near the river. Large mud brick granaries rise above the surrounding buildings. These structures are among the most important places in the region. Inside them rests food. Not merely food for one family. Food for many families. Food for workers. Food for officials. Food for temples. Food for difficult years when harvests may be poor. The grain stored here represents security. It represents survival. The scribe arrives while shadows still stretch long across the ground. Several workers are already present. Some sweep dust from entryways. Others prepare storage spaces. A supervisor checks seals and records from previous days. Everyone knows their role. Everyone understands the routine. The scribe settles onto a low stool beside a wooden table. He arranges his writing tools carefully. The papyrus lies flat before him. The reed pen rests lightly in his fingers. For a moment, everything is still. Then the first delivery arrives. A farmer approaches with donkeys carrying sacks of grain. The animals walk slowly. Dust rises beneath their hooves. The farmer looks tired already. Harvest season is demanding. Many days begin before sunrise and end after sunset. The supervisor greets him. Questions are asked. Measurements are confirmed. The grain is unloaded. Workers carry sacks towards storage areas. The scribe watches. Then he writes. A few marks. A few numbers. A name. A quantity. A location. The first entry of the day. Soon another farmer arrives. Then another. Then several together. The quiet morning begins filling with movement. Voices drip through the air. Donkeys bray. Workers call to one another. Sacks thump against the ground. The scribe continues writing. One entry follows another. Each record appears small by itself. Yet each matters. Without records, confusion grows quickly. Grain could disappear. Disputes could begin. Supplies might be counted incorrectly. So the scribe writes. Patiently. Carefully. The sun climbs higher. Golden light spreads across the landscape. The coolness of dawn slowly disappears. Already the first hints of heat can be felt. Sweat forms on workers' foreheads. Shadows shorten. The day continues. A steady stream of deliveries arrives from surrounding fields. Some farmers bring large loads. Others bring only a few sacks. Every shipment must be recorded. Every quantity must be noted. Every detail matters. The scribe's hand moves steadily. Dip the pen. Write the symbols. Pause. Check the figures. Begin again. The rhythm becomes almost meditative. Hour after hour. The work never rushes. There is always another load approaching from the dusty road. Always another farmer waiting. Always another set of numbers. The granaries gradually fill. Workers disappear inside dark storage chambers carrying baskets upon their shoulders. The air inside smells dry. Dusty. Earthy. The scent of grain lingers everywhere. Tiny particles float through shafts of sunlight. Outside, the world grows brighter. The heat strengthens. By mid-morning, the desert sun has fully arrived. Workers wrap cloth around their heads. Many move more slowly now. Even simple tasks require effort beneath the growing warmth. The scribe remains seated. Yet his work is tiring in its own way. His back grows stiff. His fingers ache. His eyes remain focused upon rows of figures. Mistakes cannot be allowed. The records must remain accurate. Nearby, workers unload another shipment. A donkey shakes its head. A basket tips slightly. Grain spills onto the ground. Immediately several laborers gather the scattered kernels. Nothing is wasted if it can be saved. Food represents labor. Food represents time. Food represents survival. The scribe glances up briefly before returning to his writing. The morning continues. The sounds of daily life surround him. Footsteps. Voices. The rustling of sacks. Occasional laughter. The scrape of wooden tools. The distant cries of birds flying above the river. None of it interrupts the work. It simply becomes part of the day's rhythm. The sun climbs even higher. Soon it stands almost overhead. The hottest hours approach. The light becomes harsh and bright. The dusty road shimmers beneath the heat. Many workers squint against the glare. Sweat darkens clothing. Faces shine beneath the sun. The scribe pauses briefly to drink water. The clay cup feels cool in his hands. The water tastes slightly earthy from storage jars. It is refreshing nonetheless. A few moments later, he returns to his records. The deliveries continue. One after another. Without hurry. Without pause. The kingdom consumes enormous amounts of grain. Bread forms the center of daily meals. Beer is made from grain. Workers depend upon it. Families depend upon it. Entire communities depend upon it. Because of this, every sack entering the granary carries importance. The scribe knows this even if he rarely thinks about it directly. His job is routine. Yet routine keeps society functioning. Around midday, many workers seek small patches of shade. Some sit against walls. Others rest beneath simple shelters. Meals are eaten quietly. Bread. Onions. Dates. A little fish if someone is fortunate. The scribe eats as well. Not for long. The deliveries do not stop. Soon he resumes his position. The papyrus grows increasingly filled with symbols. Rows of careful entries stretch across the page. Each line captures a tiny moment. A farmer arriving. A shipment unloaded. A quantity measured. A record preserved. The afternoon begins. Heat presses heavily upon the land. The desert beyond the river seems almost motionless. Even birds become quieter. People conserve energy. Workers move deliberately. No movement is wasted. The scribe writes. The pen scratches softly across papyrus. Again and again. Hours pass. The shadows slowly begin lengthening once more. The harsh brightness softens slightly. Yet there is still much work to complete. More deliveries arrive from distant fields. Some farmers have traveled for hours. Dust covers their sandals. Their faces show exhaustion. Still they wait patiently. The grain must be delivered. The records must be made. The process continues. The scribe's world becomes numbers. Measurements. Names. Locations. A continuous flow of information. Outside the granary walls, countless other lives continue unfolding. Children play in narrow streets. Women bake bread. Boats drift along the Nile. Builders shape mud bricks. Fishermen mend nets. But here, beside the storage buildings, the day revolves around grain. And the records that follow it. The afternoon sun slowly begins its descent. Golden light returns. The heat eases little by little. Workers seem to breathe more easily. Conversations grow slightly more relaxed. The hardest part of the day is passing. Yet the scribe remains at work. Still writing. Still recording. Still watching the steady arrival of grain from across the countryside. The road remains busy. The granaries continue filling. And as the long Egyptian day stretches onward, the quiet labor of recording grain deliveries carries on beneath the slowly changing sky. The afternoon settles gently across the river valley. The sun has begun its slow journey toward the western horizon, though many hours of daylight still remain. The sharp brightness of midday softens little by little. Long shadows start to appear beside walls and storage buildings. A faint breeze drifts in from the Nile, carrying the scent of water and damp reeds. For the workers at the granary, the day is far from over. The scribe lifts his hand briefly and flexes his fingers. The joints feel stiff now. For many hours he has been writing the same kinds of entries. Names. Amounts. Deliveries. Names again. Amounts again. Deliveries again. The work is repetitive. Yet repetition has its own rhythm. After enough time, the motion becomes familiar, almost automatic. His hand knows where to move. His eyes know where to look. His mind follows the flow of information without effort. Another farmer approaches. The man's sandals are coated with dust from a long road. His donkey carries several heavy sacks secured with rope. The animal looks tired. Its ears flick lazily as it stands waiting beneath the warm sun. Workers step forward. The sacks are unloaded. Weights are checked. Measurements are discussed. The supervisor nods. The scribe writes. Another line appears on the papyrus. Then another. Then another. A nearby laborer wipes sweat from his forehead. The cloth around his neck has become damp from hours of work. He stretches his back carefully before lifting another basket. The basket is filled nearly to the top with grain. Its weight presses heavily against his shoulders. He walks slowly toward one of the storage chambers. Inside the granary, the air feels different. The thick mudbrick walls keep out some of the heat. The chambers remain dim and cool compared to the bright courtyard outside. Workers move through narrow passages carrying their loads. Dust hangs quietly in the air. Every movement disturbs tiny particles that drift through shafts of sunlight. The smell of grain is everywhere. Dry. Earthy. Familiar. It settles into clothing. It settles into hair. It settles into the very walls of the building. Outside, the scribe continues writing. The afternoon moves steadily forward. Nothing dramatic happens. No sudden events interrupt the routine. The work simply continues. And that is how most days pass in ancient Egypt. Not through moments of excitement. Not through great speeches or famous decisions. But through countless ordinary tasks completed one after another. The river flows. The crops grow. The bread bakes. The records are written. Life moves quietly forward. A group of farmers arrives together. Their journey began before sunrise. They traveled from fields farther south along the river. The men speak softly among themselves while waiting their turn. One rubs a sore shoulder. Another drinks from a water jar. A third sits briefly upon a low wall. The long harvest season leaves everyone tired. Harvesting grain is exhausting work. The stalks must be cut. The bundles must be gathered. The grain must be separated. The sacks must be filled. Then everything must be transported. The process demands strength from sunrise until darkness. Many workers return home each night with aching muscles. Many fall asleep almost immediately after eating. The scribe records another delivery. The reed pen leaves neat black symbols across the page. Occasionally he pauses to sharpen the tip. The reeds wear down gradually after hours of use. A fresh point helps keep the writing clear. Nearby, a young assistant carries additional papyrus sheets to the table. The older records are carefully stacked and set aside. The new sheets are placed within easy reach. There will be many more entries before the day ends. The assistant says little. Most people speak less during the hottest months. The heat seems to slow conversation. Words require effort. Silence often feels easier. The afternoon breeze strengthens slightly. Palm fronds sway gently in the distance. The movement catches the eye. For a brief moment the scribe looks beyond the granary walls. He can see part of the river. The sunlight dances upon the surface. Boats move slowly through the water. Their sails hang quietly in the gentle wind. From this distance, everything appears peaceful. The river has always shaped life here. Without it, the fields would become dry. Without it, the grain would not grow. Without it, the granaries would stand empty. Every sack recorded today exists because the Nile continues its endless journey through the land. The scribe returns his attention to the next delivery. The routine continues. Hours pass. The shadows lengthen. The air becomes easier to breathe. Workers straighten their backs more often now. The most intense heat has faded. The courtyard fills with a softer golden light. The walls of the granary seem almost to glow. Dust drifting through the air catches the sunlight and turns bright for a moment before disappearing again. A pair of birds lands upon the roof. They remain there quietly, observing the activity below. One pecks at something unseen. The other watches the workers moving through the courtyard. Life surrounds the granary in small ways. Lizards slip across warm stone. Insects hum lazily through the air. Cats wander between buildings searching for shade and scraps. The ordinary world continues around the work. Another shipment arrives. Then another. Then another. The scribe records each one. Sometimes the deliveries are large. Sometimes they are small. A few sacks. A few baskets. A full donkey load. Several carts. Each receives the same careful attention. The records do not favor large shipments over small ones. Everything must be counted. Everything must be noted. The accuracy of the records matters. Somewhere in the future, another official may examine these entries. Questions may be asked. Supplies may need to be tracked. Taxes may need to be calculated. The figures written today may influence decisions months from now. The scribe understands this. It is one reason he works carefully despite his growing fatigue. The afternoon slowly becomes evening. The sunlight softens further. The sky begins changing color. The bright blue of midday fades toward pale gold. The distant desert takes on warmer tones. The river reflects the changing light. Workers notice the shift. Everyone knows the day's end is approaching. Bodies that have worked since dawn begin to feel heavier. Legs ache. Shoulders tighten. Hands become sore. Yet the remaining tasks still require attention. One final group of deliveries waits outside the gate. The line moves slowly. The scribe continues writing. A farmer removes his head covering and wipes his brow. Dust clings to his face. The harvest has left its mark upon him. His hands are rough from labor. His fingernails hold traces of soil from the fields. The grain he delivers today represents weeks of effort. The planting. The watering. The waiting. The harvesting. The carrying. All of it ends here, with a few simple marks written onto papyrus. The thought would seem strange to many workers. So much effort reduced to a short line of symbols. Yet those symbols preserve the memory of the labor. Without them, the work could be forgotten. The sun sinks lower. Golden light stretches across the courtyard. The walls cast long shadows. The air finally begins to cool. Many workers feel renewed energy during this time of day. The evening hours often feel like a reward after enduring the heat. Voices become slightly livelier. Conversations grow a little longer. A few smiles appear. Someone laughs quietly near the storage chambers. The sound drifts across the courtyard before fading. The scribe notices it without looking up. His attention remains fixed upon the records. The stack of completed sheets has grown considerably. Hours of work now rest neatly beside him. Page after page. Line after line. The story of the harvest written through numbers and names. Soon the first signs of evening life begin appearing beyond the granary. Cooking fires are lit. Thin streams of smoke rise into the sky. Families return home. Children gather near doorways. The scent of baking bread drifts through the air once again. It is a comforting smell. One that signals the approaching end of the day. The workers notice it too. Many are already thinking about their evening meal. Simple food. A place to sit. A chance to rest tired muscles. Perhaps a few quiet moments with family before sleep arrives. But for now, the work continues. A final series of deliveries enters the courtyard. The pace has slowed. The crowds have thinned. The busiest hours are over. Still, every remaining load must be recorded. The scribe dips his pen into ink. Writes another entry. Checks the quantity. Moves to the next line. The process remains unchanged. Steady. Reliable. Patient. As the western sky deepens into orange and gold, the granary settles into a calmer rhythm. The noise fades gradually. Fewer footsteps cross the courtyard. Fewer voices call out. The day's energy slowly drains away. The scribe feels it as well. His shoulders ache. His eyes feel tired. Yet there is also satisfaction in seeing the work completed properly. The records are orderly. The deliveries are accounted for. The grain is safely stored. The system has functioned as it should. Beyond the walls, evening spreads across the Nile Valley. The river reflects bands of gold and copper light. Palm trees become dark silhouettes against the bright sky. Birds return to their resting places. The air grows cooler with every passing moment. Soon darkness will arrive. But for now, the scribe remains at his table, writing the final entries of another long day spent recording grain deliveries beneath the ancient Egyptian sun. The sun hangs low above the western horizon. Its light has become softer now, spreading across the Nile Valley in warm shades of gold and amber. The fierce brightness of midday feels like a distant memory. The heat remains, resting quietly within the stone, the earth, and the mud-brick walls, but the air itself has begun to cool. For many people, this is their favorite part of the day. The hardest work is nearly finished. The long hours beneath the sun are ending. Soon families will gather for their evening meals. Soon workers will stretch tired legs and sit in doorways. Soon lamps will glow softly inside homes. But here at the granary, a little work still remains. The scribe lifts another sheet of papyrus and smooths it carefully against the table. His writing hand feels heavy. The muscles in his wrist have worked steadily since dawn. He cannot remember exactly how many entries he has written. Hundreds, perhaps. Maybe more. After enough hours, individual records begin to blend together. One farmer becomes another. One shipment becomes the next. Yet every line remains important. The work requires patience until the very end. A final group of donkeys waits outside the gate. Their loads are smaller than many of the deliveries that arrived earlier. Some farmers have spent the entire day in distant fields before making the journey here. The harvest season leaves little room for rest. Every daylight hour is valuable. Every task must be completed before darkness arrives. The donkeys step forward slowly. Their hooves create small clouds of dust. The sound is familiar now. The scribe has heard it all day. Hooves. Footsteps. Voices. The shifting of grain sacks. The scratching of his pen. Together these sounds have formed the music of the day. Not loud music. Not exciting music. Only the gentle rhythm of ordinary work. The supervisor checks another delivery. A few measurements are discussed. Workers unload the sacks. The grain disappears into storage. The scribe records the details. Another line. Another number. Another name. The page gradually fills. The shadows continue lengthening. The courtyard seems larger now that fewer people remain. Many laborers have already finished their duties. Some walk toward nearby villages. Others sit briefly against walls before beginning the journey home. Their movements look slower than they did this morning. Tiredness has settled into their bodies. A full day of lifting, carrying, walking, and working beneath the Egyptian sun leaves its mark on everyone. One laborer stretches his arms above his head. Another rolls his shoulders. A third drinks deeply from a clay jar before setting it down with a sigh of relief. The day has demanded much from them. Soon the evening will offer rest. The scribe glances toward the river again. The Nile appears calm beneath the fading sunlight. A small fishing boat drifts along the far bank. Its silhouette moves quietly across the glowing water. The fisherman aboard is likely preparing for the night ahead. Many fishermen work during the cooler hours. The river never truly sleeps. Even after darkness arrives, life continues along its shores. The same is true for many parts of Egypt. Bakers may begin preparing dough before midnight. Watchmen may patrol temple grounds beneath the stars. Boat crews may travel by moonlight. The kingdom breathes continuously. One group rests while another begins its work. Yet for most people, evening remains a welcome time. The scribe knows he will sleep well tonight. Hours of concentration create a different kind of exhaustion. His body has not carried heavy baskets. His shoulders have not hauled grain across courtyards. But the constant attention has drained him all the same. Numbers require focus. Records require care. Mistakes hide easily among long columns of figures. A single missed symbol could create confusion later. So he remains attentive. Even now. Especially now. The final hours deserve the same care as the first. The sky begins changing color once more. Golden tones deepen into orange. Orange slowly shifts toward red. Far above, the highest part of the sky remains pale blue. Soon that blue will darken. Soon the first stars will appear. A warm breeze moves through the courtyard. It carries the scent of evening meals from nearby homes. Bread baking in clay ovens. Cooked vegetables. Fish roasting over small fires. The smells drift gently through the air. Workers notice. Stomachs grow hungry. Thoughts begin turning toward home. A young assistant stacks completed records beside the scribe. The pile has become impressive. Sheet upon sheet. Hour upon hour. An entire day preserved in writing. Future officials may read these records. Future scribes may copy portions of them. Months from now, someone may open a storage room and compare the grain inside against the numbers written here today. The records will continue serving a purpose long after the day's workers have forgotten the details. The assistant studies the stack briefly. To him, it may simply look like paperwork. To the scribe, it represents a day's labor. A long day. A quiet day. A successful day. Another shipment arrives. The farmer leading the donkeys looks older than most. His beard shows strands of gray. His face is lined from years beneath the sun. The fields have shaped him. The seasons have shaped him. Decades of planting and harvesting have left visible marks upon his skin. He waits patiently while the grain is inspected. Nothing about the process surprises him. He has likely made this journey many times before. Year after year. Harvest after harvest. The routines of Egypt often continue unchanged across generations. Fathers teach sons. Mothers teach daughters. Skills pass quietly through families. A farmer learns where to plant. A fisherman learns where to cast nets. A baker learns when dough is ready. A scribe learns how to keep records. The work continues. The knowledge survives. The older farmer receives approval. The grain is accepted. The scribe writes another entry. Perhaps the final entry for this particular farmer until the next harvest season. The farmer nods politely before beginning the journey home. Soon he disappears down the dusty road. The evening grows deeper. Birds cross the sky in small groups. Many are returning to nesting places near the river. Their calls echo softly through the cooling air. Palm trees sway gently. The sounds of the day seem quieter now. Even the donkeys appear calmer. The pace has slowed naturally. Nobody rushes. There is no reason to rush. The sun will set when it is ready. The day will end when it ends. For thousands of years, people along the Nile have lived according to these rhythms. The river rises. The river falls. The crops grow. The crops are harvested. The seasons turn. The stars return each night. Human lives fit gently within these larger patterns. The scribe dips his pen into ink once more. The supply has lasted well throughout the day. A careful worker learns how to conserve materials. Papyrus requires effort to produce. Ink requires preparation. Nothing should be wasted. He writes another line. Then another. The page nears completion. Around him, workers begin cleaning the area. Empty baskets are stacked neatly. Tools are gathered. Loose grain is swept from the ground. Everything has its place. Tomorrow will bring another day of work. Perhaps not as busy as today. Perhaps busier. No one knows. The harvest season often brings surprises. Some years produce larger yields. Some years produce smaller ones. Weather, water levels, pests, and countless other factors influence the results. Yet regardless of the harvest size, records must always be kept. The kingdom depends upon knowing what has been gathered. Knowledge is a kind of resource itself. Numbers hold power. Records create order. The scribe understands this better than most. The first star appears. Tiny and bright. Easy to miss if one is not looking. A worker notices it and points briefly toward the sky. Others glance upward. For a moment, attention shifts away from grain and records. The evening sky invites observation. Its beauty requires no effort. No calculations. No measurements. only a quiet look upward. Soon more stars will follow. The western horizon glows softly. The last light lingers. The river reflects the colors of sunset. The water seems almost motionless from this distance. A peaceful silence begins settling over the landscape. Not complete silence. Egypt is rarely completely silent. There are always distant voices. Always animals. Always water moving somewhere nearby. Yet compared to midday, the world feels calm. Gentle. Relaxed. The scribe lowers his pen and flexes his fingers again. The day's work is nearly complete. Only a handful of deliveries remain. The courtyard grows emptier with each passing minute. Workers leave in small groups. Their conversations fade as they travel down village roads. Soon lamps will glow inside their homes. Soon children will listen to stories before sleep. Soon tired bodies will rest upon woven mats. The long day will finally be over. But for a little while longer, beneath the fading colors of the Egyptian evening, the scribe remains at his table. The final records still wait to be written. The final grain still waits to be counted. And the ancient rhythm of work continues quietly beneath the first stars appearing above the Nile. The first stars continue appearing above the Nile. One by one, small points of light emerge from the deepening blue of the evening sky. The western horizon still holds a faint band of gold, but it grows dimmer with every passing moment. Across the valley, lamps begin glowing inside mudbrick homes. Their warm light flickers softly through doorways and small windows. The day's heat slowly escapes from the earth. Stone walls release the warmth they gathered beneath the sun. Dusty roads cool beneath the evening air. Palm leaves rustle gently overhead. The world seems to exhale. At the granary, only a few workers remain. Most have already started home. Their silhouettes disappeared along the roads some time ago, carrying tired bodies toward waiting meals and resting places. The noise that filled the courtyard throughout the day has faded almost completely. Now only scattered sounds remain. A donkey shifting its weight. The scrape of a basket against stone. The soft murmur of two workers finishing a conversation. The quiet scratching of a reed pen across papyrus. The scribe continues writing. The rhythm that began before sunrise still carries him forward. His movements are slower now, but no less careful. The fading light makes the work more difficult. An oil lamp has been placed nearby. Its flame dances gently whenever a breeze enters the courtyard. The small circle of light illuminates the papyrus before him. Beyond its glow, darkness gradually gathers. The assistant who spent much of the day organizing records sits nearby. He looks tired. Several times he suppresses a yawn. The long hours have affected him as well. Though younger than the scribe, even youth has limits. A day spent working from dawn until night leaves its mark on everyone. The assistant adjusts a stack of completed records. The pile has become remarkably large. Each sheet contains rows of symbols. Names. Numbers. Deliveries. Records of labor performed by hundreds of hands across the countryside. The stack represents countless hours spent in fields beneath the sun. Countless baskets lifted. Countless stalks harvested. Countless journeys made along dusty roads. The written symbols preserve all of it. Outside the granary walls, village life settles into evening. Families gather around simple meals. Children sit beside parents. Neighbors exchange quiet conversations. The smell of fresh bread drifts through the cooling air. Some homes prepare lentils. Others prepare vegetables. A fortunate family may share fish from the river. The scents mingle together and float through narrow streets. For many workers, this meal is the most peaceful part of the day. The labor is finished. Tomorrow remains distant. For a few precious hours, there is only food, family, and rest. The scribe notices the smell of bread as well. His stomach reminds him that he has eaten very little since morning. Still, the work comes first. The records must be completed. The final deliveries must be documented. Only then can he return home. A farmer enters the courtyard carrying a small shipment. He arrived late. Perhaps his fields lie farther from the river. Perhaps a wheel broke during transport. Perhaps the harvest simply took longer than expected. Whatever the reason, he has reached the granary just before darkness. The supervisor greets him. Questions are asked. Measurements are checked. The process remains unchanged despite the hour. The grain is unloaded. The scribe records the details. Another line joins the hundreds already written today. The farmer thanks the workers before departing. His sandals disappear into the darkness beyond the gate. Soon only a few final deliveries remain. The stars grow brighter overhead. Without the sun, the sky reveals its hidden details. Constellations emerge. Ancient patterns known to generations of Egyptians. Farmers know them. Fishermen know them. Travelers know them. Sailors on the Nile use them to guide journeys during the night. Above the valley, these same stars have watched over countless harvests. Countless villages. Countless lives. The stars remain while generations come and go beneath them. The scribe glances upward briefly. Only for a moment. Then he returns to the page. His work keeps his eyes mostly fixed upon earthly matters. Numbers. Names. Records. Yet even a scribe cannot ignore the beauty of a clear Egyptian night. The assistant lights a second lamp. Its glow expands the circle of visibility. The shadows retreat slightly. Papyrus sheets become easier to read. The warm light reflects from the black ink. The symbols seem almost alive as the flame flickers beside them. A soft breeze enters the courtyard. The lamps tremble. For a moment, their shadows dance across the walls. Then the air becomes still once more. The granary feels entirely different at night. During the day it was filled with movement. Workers passed constantly through the gates. Voices echoed from every corner. Dust drifted through sunlight. Now the large storage buildings stand quietly beneath the stars. The grain rests inside. Thousands upon thousands of kernels. Stored safely behind thick walls. Protected from weather. Protected from animals. Protected for future use. The granaries seem almost asleep. Yet their importance remains. Within these walls rests food for many people. Food that will become bread. Food that will become beer. Food that will sustain workers through future months. The scribe writes another entry. The pen moves carefully through the lamplight. His hand feels slower now. Not because he has forgotten the process. Simply because exhaustion has settled into his muscles. The body grows heavier at night. Thoughts move more slowly. Eyes grow tired. Even simple actions require greater effort. The assistant stretches and stands. His legs have become stiff from sitting. He walks briefly across the courtyard. The movement helps wake him. Nearby, a cat slips silently between storage buildings. Its paws make no sound. The animal pauses beside a wall, watching the remaining workers. Then it disappears into the darkness. Cats are common throughout Egypt. They wander through homes, workshops, and storage areas. They hunt mice that might otherwise damage grain supplies. Many workers appreciate their presence. The cat vanishes from sight. The courtyard returns to stillness. Only a handful of people remain awake here now. Elsewhere, many villagers have already gone to sleep. The day began early. Tomorrow will begin early as well. Rest is valuable. A laborer who carried grain all day cannot remain awake long after sunset. His body demands sleep. The same is true for fishermen preparing to rise before dawn. The same is true for bakers who will soon begin tomorrow's work. Life follows rhythms. Work and rest. Light and darkness. Activity and stillness. The Nile Valley moves according to these patterns. It always has. The final deliveries continue arriving one by one. A basket here. A sack there. Nothing like the constant stream of shipments that filled the morning hours. The rush has passed. Only the last pieces remain. The supervisor seems pleased. The day's work has gone smoothly. No major disagreements. No serious mistakes. No missing shipments. Such days are welcome. Not every day unfolds so easily. Sometimes records must be checked repeatedly. Sometimes disputes arise over measurements. Sometimes damaged grain creates complications. Today has been simple. And simple days often feel like good days. The scribe finishes another sheet. Carefully, he places it atop the growing stack. The assistant secures the completed records. Tomorrow they will be stored properly. Future officials may consult them. Future scribes may copy them. The information will remain long after the workers themselves have forgotten the details of this particular day. A distant sound drifts from the river. Perhaps a boatman calling softly to another vessel. Perhaps fishermen preparing nets. The sound echoes briefly through the night air. Then silence returns. The stars shine brighter. The lamps glow warmer. The courtyard grows quieter still. The scribe reaches for fresh ink. Only a little remains necessary now. The end of the work is finally approaching. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. Just as the day began slowly, it moves toward completion slowly. A few more records. A few more careful lines. A few more moments beneath the stars. The same patient rhythm continues. The same quiet dedication. The same steady attention that has carried him through nearly 12 hours of recording grain deliveries. And beneath the calm night sky of ancient Egypt, surrounded by stored harvests and cooling stone walls, the scribe continues his work while the Nile flows quietly through the darkness nearby. The Nile continues its quiet journey through the darkness. Its waters move steadily beneath the stars, flowing past villages, fields, temples, and sleeping homes. Along the riverbanks, reeds sway gently in the night breeze. Somewhere beyond the granary walls, a frog calls from the water's edge. The sound rises softly from the darkness before fading once more into silence. The evening has become fully night. The last traces of sunset have disappeared. Above the valley, countless stars fill the sky. They seem brighter now that the day's dust has settled. Their pale light touches rooftops, palm trees, and quiet roads. Most of Egypt rests beneath their watch. Inside many homes, lamps have already been extinguished. Families sleep on woven mats. Children curl beneath simple blankets. Workers who spent the day harvesting grain rest aching muscles. Builders sleep after carrying stone. Fishermen sleep before tomorrow's journey onto the river. The kingdom grows quiet. Yet at the granary, a few lights still burn. The scribe remains at his table. The flame beside him flickers gently. Its glow illuminates the final sheets of papyrus waiting to be completed. His shadow stretches across the ground behind him. Every now and then the lamp crackles softly. Tiny movements of the flame create shifting patterns across the page. The assistant sits nearby. His eyelids droop. Several times he glances toward the gate, perhaps imagining the comfort of home. The smell of evening meals has long since faded. Now the air carries only the scent of cooling earth, lamp oil, and stored grain. It is a calm smell. A familiar smell. One that belongs to places where food is kept safely for the future. The scribe writes another line. Then another. The symbols emerge neatly despite the late hour. Years of practice guide his hand. Even when tired, he knows the shape of every mark. His fingers remember the movements. His eyes recognize mistakes immediately. The work flows naturally. Outside the granary, a donkey passes along the road. Its footsteps sound slow and unhurried. Perhaps someone is returning from a distant village. Perhaps a late traveler is making his way home beneath the stars. Night travel is often cooler than daytime travel. Many people welcome the relief from the sun. The sound gradually fades. The road becomes quiet again. The scribe pauses briefly. Not because the work is finished. Only because his wrist aches. He sets down the pen. Rotates his hand gently. Flexes his fingers. The relief lasts only a moment. Soon he reaches for the pen once more. The final records still wait. Across the courtyard, one of the laborers sweeps the ground. The task is simple. Loose grain must be gathered. Dust must be cleared. The area should be orderly before everyone leaves. The laborer works slowly. There is no need for speed now. His broom creates soft scraping sounds against the earth. Back and forth. Back and forth. The steady motion almost resembles a form of meditation. Many jobs in Egypt contain this quality. Grinding grain. Kneading bread. Casting fishing nets. Shaping clay. Writing records. Simple actions repeated many times. Day after day. Season after season. The repetition becomes part of life itself. The stars wheel slowly overhead. Though no one notices the movement directly, the sky changes little by little. Hours pass quietly. The night deepens. A cool breeze enters the courtyard. For the first time all day, the air feels truly comfortable. The fierce heat that dominated the afternoon has vanished. Stone walls no longer radiate warmth. The earth has begun releasing the last traces of the sun's energy. The scribe welcomes the change. His mind feels clearer in the cooler air. The long hours seem slightly easier to bear. Another record is completed. Then another. The stack of unfinished sheets continues shrinking. The completed pile grows. The balance slowly shifts toward completion. Nearby, the supervisor reviews several earlier entries. He studies the symbols carefully. His eyes move across rows of numbers. After a few moments, he nods with satisfaction. The records appear accurate. No corrections seem necessary. The scribe notices the gesture. It is a small thing. Yet after such a long day, it feels rewarding. Much of his work passes unnoticed. If the records are correct, no one speaks about them. Only mistakes attract attention. That is often the nature of careful work. Success appears ordinary. Failure stands out. Tonight, the records have been done properly. The supervisor sets the sheets aside. The scribe returns to writing. A soft rustling sound comes from one of the storage buildings. Perhaps a mouse. Perhaps a bird settling somewhere among the beams. The cat that wandered through the courtyard earlier may already be searching for the source. Life continues even after darkness falls. Tiny movements unfold everywhere. Insects crawl through cracks in walls. Small animals explore quiet corners. Night birds hunt beneath the stars. The world never becomes completely still. The assistant rises once more and walks toward the gate. He gazes down the empty road. Moonlight now touches parts of the path. The village beyond lies mostly silent. A few distant lamps remain visible. Most homes have gone dark. Families sleep. Dreams drift quietly through mud-brick rooms. The assistant returns to the table. He says very little. Everyone seems quieter at this hour. The night encourages silence. The scribe turns another page. Only a handful remain. The realization brings a gentle sense of relief. 12 hours is a long time. Long enough for the entire sky to change. Long enough for dawn to become morning, morning to become afternoon, and afternoon to become night. Long enough to watch countless workers arrive and depart. Long enough to fill pages with records of grain deliveries. Long enough for exhaustion to settle deeply into the body. Yet the work has been worthwhile. The granaries are fuller. The harvest is documented. Order has been maintained. The kingdom's records remain complete. These quiet accomplishments rarely attract attention. No crowds celebrate them. No monuments commemorate them. Yet such tasks form the foundation of daily life. A kingdom depends not only upon rulers and officials. It depends upon farmers, builders, fishermen, bakers, and scribes sitting beside oil lamps long after sunset. The breeze strengthens slightly. Palm leaves rustle somewhere beyond the walls. Their soft movement blends with the distant sounds of the river. Together they create a gentle nighttime music. A music that has existed for generations. A music heard by countless Egyptians before sleep. The scribe pauses once more. This time he drinks from a water jar. The water feels cool. Refreshing. Its taste carries faint traces of clay from the vessel. He drinks slowly. Then returns to work. The final entries deserve his full attention. Even now. Especially now. Fatigue can invite mistakes. The last lines must remain as careful as the first. The pen scratches softly across papyrus. Ink flows smoothly. Symbols appear. Numbers take shape. The work continues. The laborer finishes sweeping. The courtyard looks tidy once again. Baskets are stacked. Tools are stored. Everything waits quietly for tomorrow. Only the records remain unfinished. The stars shine overhead. The river flows beyond sight. The cool night air settles gently across the valley. And within the warm circle of lamplight, surrounded by the scent of grain and ink, the scribe continues recording the final deliveries of a very long day, preserving each small detail while the rest of ancient Egypt slowly drifts into sleep. The sixth day begins with the sound of distant oars moving through darkness. Before the first hint of dawn appears, the rope keeper opens his eyes and listens. The village remains asleep. Most homes are quiet. Cooking fires have not yet been lit. The roads are empty. Yet from somewhere out on the Nile comes the soft, rhythmic splash of wood entering water. A fisherman has already begun his work. Perhaps several fishermen. Their boats move silently through the darkness while the rest of the world still dreams. The rope keeper lies still for a few moments, listening to the faint sound. Splash. Pause. Splash. Pause. The rhythm blends with the gentle murmur of the river. There is something comforting about familiar sounds. After so many years beside the Nile, he can often identify activities without seeing them. A fishing boat. A cargo vessel. A ferry line under tension. The rustle of reeds. The cry of certain birds. Each sound belongs to a particular part of life along the river. Together they create a world that feels deeply known. At last he rises from his reed mat. The air inside the house is cool. Outside, darkness still covers the valley. A few stars remain overhead. The moon has already disappeared beyond the western horizon. Today feels especially quiet. Even the wind seems reluctant to disturb the stillness. The rope keeper steps onto the familiar path leading toward the river. The earth beneath his sandals feels firm and smooth. Years of footsteps have worn the path into the landscape. Farmers, boatmen, children, merchants, laborers. Generations of people have traveled these same routes. Some are remembered. Most are not. Yet their footsteps helped shape the world around them. The rope keeper reaches the riverbank just as the first pale glow appears in the east. The Nile stretches before him, calm and dark. Mist drifts across parts of the water. Small patches of white hover above the surface like thin clouds resting upon the river. Everything feels peaceful. For several moments he stands quietly and watches. The river at dawn always feels different from the river at midday. During daylight it becomes busy and practical. A place of work. A place of travel. A place of commerce. But before sunrise, it feels almost sacred in its stillness. Not because of temples. Not because of ceremonies. Simply because silence allows people to notice things they often overlook. The gentle movement of water. The changing colors of the sky. The way light slowly returns to the world. The rope keeper begins his morning inspection. His hands travel across familiar sections of rope. The fibers feel cool. A slight layer of moisture from the night air clings to them. Everything appears strong. Everything appears secure. The ferry has rested peacefully through the night. Soon it will begin another long day of service. The eastern horizon grows brighter. Gray becomes silver. Silver becomes gold. Birds awaken among the reeds. Their calls spread across the riverbank. A few small fish break the surface of the water before disappearing again. The river seems to stretch and awaken alongside the village. Soon the first workers arrive. A baker carrying sacks of grain. A fisherman returning with modest success. Several young laborers heading toward fields across the river. The ferry begins operating before the sun fully rises. The rope keeper helps guide passengers aboard. The routine feels familiar and comforting. Each action flows naturally into the next. A rope adjusted. A basket secured. A passenger assisted. The ferry departs. Returns. Departs again. The day begins to gather momentum. As sunlight spreads across the valley, colors emerge slowly from the fading darkness. Palm trees become green once more. Mudbrick homes glow softly beneath the morning light. The river changes from black to blue and gold. The transformation happens every day. Yet it never feels entirely ordinary. There is beauty in repetition when viewed carefully. The rope keeper notices a young boy standing near the landing area. The child appears fascinated by everything. The ropes. The ferry. The water. The boats. He watches closely as passengers board. His eyes follow every movement. Perhaps one day he will work beside the river as well. Perhaps not. The future remains hidden. For now he is simply curious. The rope keeper remembers being young. Not every detail. Many years have passed. But he remembers watching older workers perform tasks that seemed mysterious at the time. How did they know which knot to use? How could they judge the weight of cargo so quickly? How did they understand the river so well? The answers came slowly. One day at a time. One season at a time. Knowledge often arrives quietly. The morning becomes busier. More travelers appear. A merchant transports jars filled with honey. Several farmers carry bundles of tools. A carpenter brings newly shaped pieces of wood across the river. The landing area fills with movement. Voices drift through the air. The rope keeper hears conversations about crops. About family members. About repairs needed on homes and storage buildings. Nothing extraordinary. Only the countless small concerns that occupy everyday life. These concerns may seem ordinary. Yet they matter deeply to the people discussing them. A leaking roof matters. A healthy harvest matters. A sick animal matters. History often remembers great rulers. The rope keeper knows nothing about such records. His world revolves around simpler things. And simpler things often determine whether daily life feels comfortable or difficult. The sun climbs steadily higher. The coolness of morning begins to fade. Warmth settles across the landscape. Workers remove extra layers of clothing. Travelers seek shade while waiting for crossings. The rope keeper drinks water from a clay jar. Its coolness brings immediate relief. Nearby, a group of women discuss bread prices at the market. One laughs softly at something another says. The sound drifts across the landing. Laughter is not rare here. Life can be difficult. Work can be exhausting. Yet moments of joy still appear. A conversation. A family gathering. A successful harvest. Fresh bread shared among friends. Small happiness often carries people through long days. The ferry continues moving steadily across the river. Back and forth. Back and forth. Its rhythm feels almost endless. The rope keeper watches the water carefully. A slightly stronger current has appeared today. Nothing dangerous. Nothing unusual. Just another reminder that the Nile is always changing. The river never repeats itself completely. Every day brings subtle differences. A shift in water level. A new pattern of movement. A different wind. Those who spend their lives beside the river learn to notice such things naturally. By midday the heat begins pressing down upon the valley. Shadows shrink. The ground grows hot beneath sandals. The air feels heavier. Many travelers slow their pace. Conversations become quieter. The rope keeper pauses beneath shade whenever opportunities arise. A woven shelter stands near the landing. Its shadow is narrow but welcome. Several laborers rest nearby. Their faces shine with sweat. Their clothing carries dust from roads and fields. No one complains. Complaints rarely change the weather. Instead they drink water and wait patiently for cooler hours. The rope keeper shares part of a simple meal. Bread. A few vegetables. Water. The food is plain. Yet after hours of labor, it feels satisfying. Meals beside the river are often uncomplicated. People eat what is available. What can be grown? What can be stored? What can be transported? Simple food supports demanding lives. After eating, he returns to work. The afternoon stretches ahead. The hottest hours arrive slowly. The sunlight seems almost motionless in the sky. The village becomes quieter. Even animals seek shelter from the heat. The ferry still operates. Though fewer passengers appear, some journeys cannot wait. A messenger crosses carrying important information. A merchant transports valuable goods. A family visits relatives in another settlement. Life continues. The rope keeper moves through each task with steady patience. Years of routine have taught him not to rush. The river rewards calm attention. Rushing often creates mistakes. Patience prevents many problems before they begin. As the afternoon advances, he notices dark shapes approaching from upstream. At first they appear small against the bright water. Gradually they become clearer. Several larger cargo boats. Their sails catch the breeze. Their hulls ride low in the water beneath heavy loads. The rope keeper watches them pass. Such boats often carry grain, stone, timber, or other valuable supplies. Their journeys may take days, sometimes weeks. The river serves not only villages but entire regions. Goods travel immense distances upon its waters. Watching the boats disappear downstream, he wonders briefly about the people aboard. Where have they come from? Where are they going? The questions drip through his mind before fading away. His own responsibilities remain here. At this crossing. At this stretch of shoreline. At this small but important point along the river. Eventually the heat begins to ease. The change arrives slowly but unmistakably. A breeze returns. Shadows lengthen. Birds become active once more. The entire valley seems to breathe easier. Travelers begin appearing in greater numbers. Workers return from fields. Craftsmen finish their daily tasks. Families make evening journeys. The ferry grows busy again. The rope keeper feels tired now. His shoulders ache. His hands feel heavy. Yet the cooler air helps. Work becomes easier when the sun begins its descent. Golden light spreads across the landscape. The Nile glows beautifully. The surface of the water reflects the sky like polished metal. Palm trees cast long shadows across the riverbank. Children point toward birds flying overhead. Parents gather baskets and tools. The day gradually approaches its end. The final crossings unfold peacefully. Passengers speak in quiet voices. Many appear lost in thought. The long day has left everyone tired. The rope keeper understands the feeling. Fatigue settles gently across the entire village each evening. Not a painful fatigue. A familiar one. The kind earned through honest work. The sun finally sinks below the horizon. Colors linger briefly in the western sky. Then darkness begins its slow return. The rope keeper secures the ferry for the night. His hands perform each task carefully. Nothing is overlooked. Tomorrow's work depends upon today's preparation. The ropes are checked. The lines are secured. The landing is left in good order. Only then does he allow himself to relax. The riverbank grows quiet. The last travelers disappear into the village. Cooking fires glow in the distance. The smell of bread and roasted vegetables drifts through the evening air. Above, the first stars appear. One by one. Just as they have every night for countless generations. The rope keeper stands beside the Nile for a final moment. The water whispers softly against the shore. A cool breeze touches his face. The day's labor is finished. Night has arrived once more. And beneath the endless stars of ancient Egypt, the great river continues its patient journey through darkness, carrying the peaceful sounds of the valley into another quiet evening. The seventh day begins with a faint coolness lingering over the Nile Valley. The rope keeper wakes before dawn, as he always does, but today there is a different feeling in the air. Not a dramatic change. Only something subtle. The kind of difference that most travelers might never notice. The air feels slightly fresher. The breeze carries a little more moisture from the river. The darkness itself seems softer. For a few moments he remains still on his reed mat, listening. A distant owl calls once. Then silence returns. The village sleeps peacefully. Nearby, family members breathe slowly in their sleep. Outside, the stars continue shining above the valley. The rope keeper rises quietly and steps into the cool pre-dawn darkness. The earth beneath his sandals feels comfortable. Not cold. Not warm. Simply pleasant. He begins his familiar journey toward the ferry landing. Every stone. Every bend in the path. Every palm tree. All are known to him. Years of repetition have made the route feel almost like an extension of his own home. There is comfort in such familiarity. The world changes constantly in small ways. Children grow older. Buildings require repairs. Flood seasons come and go. Yet certain paths remain. Certain routines endure. The rope keeper appreciates these steady things. They provide a sense of order. A quiet structure beneath the flow of everyday life. As he approaches the river, the scent of water becomes stronger. The Nile appears gradually through the darkness. Its broad surface reflects countless stars. The river seems endless. Even after a lifetime beside it, its size still inspires a quiet sense of wonder. Not excitement. Not amazement. Something gentler. A feeling of respect. The Nile asks for respect. It provides life. It nourishes fields. It carries boats. It supports villages. Yet it also reminds people of their dependence upon forces larger than themselves. The rope keeper pauses near the shore. The river flows silently before him. Mist drifts across the water. Thin ribbons of white move lazily above the surface. The sight feels peaceful enough to belong inside a dream. Soon the first hints of dawn appear. A faint gray light touches the eastern horizon. Birds begin to stir among the reeds. The world slowly awakens. The rope keeper starts his morning inspection. His hands move across the ropes with practiced confidence. Every strand receives attention. Every knot is examined. The work never changes. And because it never changes, it remains important. Routine can sometimes appear ordinary. Yet routine prevents problems. Routine creates reliability. The villagers who cross the ferry each day trust that it will be ready. That trust begins here, in these quiet pre-dawn inspections. Everything appears sound. The ropes remain strong. The wooden posts stand firm. The ferry rests exactly as it should. The rope keeper feels satisfied. A well-maintained crossing often passes unnoticed. That is perfectly acceptable. Some of the most important work in the world attracts little attention. As dawn spreads across the valley, more workers begin arriving. A fisherman carrying damp nets. A baker transporting sacks of grain. Several farmers heading toward distant fields. The landing slowly fills with life. Voices drift through the cool air. Greetings are exchanged. Questions are asked. News is shared. The ferry begins its daily rhythm. Passengers board. Cargo is arranged. The vessel pushes away from shore. The rope keeper watches carefully. The river appears calm this morning. Only small ripples move across its surface. The crossing proceeds smoothly. Soon the ferry returns. Then departs again. And so another day unfolds beside the Nile. The morning remains pleasant. The cooler air lingers longer than usual. Many travelers seem grateful. Several mention the weather while waiting near the landing. The rope keeper listens quietly. Weather may seem like a simple topic. Yet for people who depend upon fields, livestock, and river travel, it matters greatly. A change in wind can affect boats. A change in water levels can affect crops. The natural world influences nearly every part of life. A group of farmers boards the ferry carrying wooden tools polished smooth by years of use. Their hands tell stories of labor. Calluses. Scratches. Sun-darkened skin. The rope keeper notices such details automatically. Working people recognize the signs of work in one another. No words are necessary. The ferry carries them across. As it moves through the morning light, the river reflects brilliant shades of gold. Birds skim low across the surface. A fish leaps briefly from the water before disappearing again. The scene lasts only a moment. Then the river returns to calm. Many beautiful things beside the Nile are temporary. A reflection. A breeze. A flock of birds crossing the sky. Part of their beauty comes from their briefness. The rope keeper has learned to appreciate such moments without trying to hold on to them. The morning grows busier. Merchants arrive transporting pottery. Servants carry supplies between settlements. Craftsmen move tools and materials. The landing area becomes lively. Children accompany parents. Donkeys wait patiently beside cargo. Voices overlap in dozens of conversations. The rope keeper moves steadily through the activity. Helping here. Adjusting a rope there. Guiding passengers aboard. Checking equipment. Everything happens at a comfortable pace. No one rushes unnecessarily. The river encourages patience. There is little reason to hurry when crossings take the time they take. The sun climbs higher. The coolness gradually fades. Warmth spreads across the valley. Workers begin seeking patches of shade whenever possible. The rope keeper drinks from a clay jar and wipes sweat from his brow. The day is becoming hotter. Still, compared to some afternoons, it remains manageable. A gentle breeze occasionally drifts across the water. Each time it arrives, conversations pause briefly as people enjoy the relief. Simple pleasures often feel strongest when earned. Shade feels wonderful after standing in sunlight. Cool water feels wonderful after hours of labor. Evening feels wonderful after a long day of work. The rhythm of contrast shapes life beside the Nile. Near midday, a larger cargo vessel passes the crossing. Its sail catches the wind. Its hull rides low beneath a heavy load. Passengers waiting at the landing stop to watch. Large boats always attract attention. They hint at distant places. Distant markets. Distant villages. Perhaps even distant cities. The rope keeper follows the vessel with his eyes until it disappears downstream. Then he returns to his work. The ferry requires attention. The ropes require attention. The present moment requires attention. Dreaming about distant places may be pleasant, but the crossing depends upon careful hands here and now. By midday the heat settles fully across the valley. Shadows become short. The sunlight turns bright and powerful. The landing grows quieter. Fewer travelers appear. Most people choose to rest whenever possible. The rope keeper sits beneath shade for a short meal. Bread. A few dates. Water. Simple food. Reliable food. Food that has sustained generations. Nearby, several laborers share stories from previous flood seasons. Their voices move slowly through the warm air. One remembers a particularly high flood many years ago. Another remembers rebuilding irrigation channels after heavy water damaged them. Such memories become part of village life. People measure time through seasons, harvests, and floods. Years become attached to events. The year of strong crops. The year of poor fishing. The year of abundant water. The Nile shapes memory as surely as it shapes the land itself. The afternoon arrives. Heat shimmers above the riverbank. Dusty roads appear almost white beneath the sunlight. The rope keeper continues working through the slower hours. A merchant crosses with jars of oil. A shepherd transports several sheep. A family visits relatives across the river. The crossings continue. Perhaps not as frequently, but steadily. Always steadily. The rope keeper's movements remain calm and efficient. There is no wasted effort. Years of experience have taught him exactly how much energy to spend on each task. Older workers often move this way. Not faster. Not slower. Simply wiser. They understand that strength must last the entire day. As afternoon gradually softens, the valley seems to awaken once more. The worst heat begins to retreat. Birds return to the reeds. Children reappear along pathways. Travelers become more numerous. The landing grows busy again. The rope keeper feels fatigue gathering in his shoulders. This has been a long week. Every day has begun before dawn. Every day has ended after sunset. His hands have handled countless ropes. His feet have traveled the same paths repeatedly. His body feels the weight of accumulated labor. Yet there is satisfaction within that tiredness. The kind of satisfaction that comes from useful work completed consistently. The evening light arrives. Golden sunlight stretches across the Nile. The water glows softly. Palm trees cast long shadows across the shore. The entire valley seems calmer, quieter, more reflective. Families begin returning home. Workers leave fields. Craftsmen close workshops. Cooking fires are prepared. The scent of bread soon drifts across the air. The rope keeper continues assisting passengers during the final crossings. Many look tired. Some carry tools. Others carry baskets. A few simply carry the weight of a long day. The ferry transports them all. One final journey. Then another. Then another. Until eventually the last crossing arrives. The rope keeper secures the ropes carefully. His hands move through familiar motions practiced thousands of times before. The ferry settles into its resting place. The landing grows quiet. The day's work is finished. The sun disappears beyond the horizon. Colors fade slowly from the sky. Orange becomes purple. Purple becomes deep blue. The first stars emerge overhead. The rope keeper remains beside the river for a moment. The evening breeze feels cool against his skin. The water whispers softly along the shore. Somewhere in the distance, a boatman sings quietly while securing his vessel for the night. The sound drifts across the darkening water. Then fades away. Night settles gently over the Nile Valley. The village glows with warm lamplight. Families gather inside mudbrick homes. Meals are shared. Stories are exchanged. Children grow sleepy. The rope keeper turns toward home. His body is weary. His mind is calm. Behind him, the Nile continues its endless journey beneath the stars, carrying moonlight upon its surface as another peaceful ancient night unfolds beside the river. Another week begins before the first light touches the eastern horizon. The rope keeper wakes in darkness. For a moment he is unsure whether he has been asleep for many hours or only a short while. The sounds of the night remain unchanged. The same distant murmur of the Nile. The same gentle shifting of air through narrow village streets. The same occasional call of a bird waking earlier than the rest. Then his eyes adjust to the darkness, and he remembers. A new day has arrived. Slowly he sits upright on his reed mat. The familiar stiffness greets him. His shoulders feel heavy. His hands ache slightly from years of gripping wet ropes and rough fibers. His knees protest as he stands. These sensations no longer surprise him. Many workers in the village begin each morning this way. The body remembers labor. It keeps a quiet record of every season. Outside, the sky remains dark. Countless stars stretch across the heavens. The air feels pleasantly cool. This hour before dawn is often the most comfortable part of the entire day. The heat waits somewhere beyond the horizon, not yet awakened. The rope keeper steps into the sleeping village. Mud brick walls cast long shadows beneath the starlight. Doorways remain closed. Cooking fires are dark. Most people continue dreaming. Perhaps a farmer dreams of green fields. Perhaps a fisherman dreams of full nets. Perhaps a child dreams of adventures along the river. The rope keeper does not spend much time wondering. His thoughts remain simple this early in the morning. There is work to do. The ferry must be inspected. The river must be watched. The crossing must be prepared. His feet follow the familiar path toward the Nile. The route feels almost automatic. Years of repetition have carved it deeply into memory. Even in darkness he could likely find his way. The river appears ahead. Wide. Quiet. Patient. The Nile never seems hurried. Its water moves steadily through the darkness, carrying reflections of the stars. Mist drifts across parts of the surface. The world feels suspended between night and morning. The rope keeper pauses near the shore. He listens. Water brushing gently against wood. The distant creak of a moored boat. The faint rustle of reeds. Nothing else. No crowds. No merchants. No busy conversations. Only the river. Only silence. These quiet moments belong to him. Soon enough the day will become full of voices and activity. For now, he enjoys the stillness. Eventually he begins his inspection. His fingers travel carefully along the ropes. The fibers feel cool and slightly damp from the night air. Each knot receives attention. Each connection is checked. The routine rarely changes. Yet it never feels unnecessary. Ropes are like friendships. They remain strong when cared for. Neglect weakens them. Attention preserves them. The rope keeper has learned this through years of observation. A ferry crossing depends upon many small acts of maintenance. Most travelers never notice them. That is perfectly acceptable. The purpose of his work is not recognition. The purpose is reliability. The eastern sky slowly brightens. Gray spreads across the horizon. Birds begin singing among the reeds. The world awakens one sound at a time. A fisherman arrives carrying freshly mended nets. A baker passes with sacks of grain balanced across a donkey. Two laborers exchange quiet greetings while waiting for the first crossing. The day begins gently. The ferry starts operating shortly after sunrise. Golden light spills across the water. The river transforms from silver gray to bright gold. The sight remains beautiful despite its familiarity. The rope keeper helps guide passengers aboard. A mother carrying vegetables. An elderly farmer with tools. Several merchants transporting pottery. The ferry pushes away from shore. The crossing begins. The water beneath the vessel moves with calm confidence. Passengers stand quietly. Some watch the river. Others think about the work waiting for them across the water. The rope keeper notices both types. Some people are always looking ahead. Others take time to observe the present moment. The river seems to encourage observation. Its steady movement invites reflection. As morning progresses, activity increases. The landing fills with voices. Donkeys wait beside cargo. Children accompany parents. Workers hurry toward fields and workshops. The rope keeper remains busy. Every crossing requires attention. A basket must be secured. A rope must be adjusted. A passenger needs assistance. The tasks are never difficult individually. Their challenge comes from repetition. From doing them well hundreds of times. Day after day. Year after year. The morning sun climbs steadily. Its warmth spreads across the valley. Palm trees cast shorter shadows. The cool air begins to disappear. The rope keeper drinks from a clay water jar. The water feels wonderfully refreshing. Nearby, several merchants discuss prices in the marketplace. One hopes for better sales this week. Another worries about transportation delays farther upriver. Business concerns sound remarkably similar regardless of generation. People have always worried about supplies, timing, and uncertainty. The details change. The concerns remain. A group of stone workers arrives near mid-morning. Dust covers their clothing. Their hands are rough and powerful. Several carry tools over their shoulders. The rope keeper watches them board the ferry. He imagines the long hours they spend beneath the sun shaping stone. Every profession carries its own difficulties. Every profession demands something from the body. The ferry carries them safely across. Soon another group replaces them. Then another. The rhythm continues. The sun reaches its highest point. Heat settles over the Nile Valley. The air grows heavy. Movement slows. The rope keeper feels sweat forming along his neck. Many travelers seek shelter before continuing their journeys. Shade becomes valuable. Even a narrow strip of shadow can feel precious during midday. The rope keeper sits briefly beneath a reed shelter. Nearby, a farmer shares part of his lunch with a younger worker. Bread. Dates. A small piece of dried fish. Simple food. Simple kindness. Such moments happen often. People depend upon one another more than they sometimes realize. A ferry crossing depends upon ropes. Fields depend upon water. Families depend upon labor. Villages depend upon cooperation. Life beside the Nile is woven together much like the ropes the keeper inspects each morning. Countless strands creating strength. The afternoon arrives slowly. The brightest sunlight reflects from the river. The water almost seems to glow. The rope keeper continues his work despite the heat. Passengers still arrive. Goods still require transportation. The ferry continues moving steadily across the Nile. A messenger crosses carrying rolled documents. A shepherd guides several goats aboard. A merchant transports baskets filled with figs. The day unfolds through countless small journeys. Each traveler carries a purpose. Each crossing becomes part of a larger story. Most stories remain untold, yet they shape the world all the same. As the afternoon progresses, clouds appear far in the distance. Only a few, thin and scattered. The rope keeper notices them immediately. Clouds always attract attention in Egypt. Not because they are rare, but because they change the appearance of the sky. The clouds drift slowly across the horizon. Their shadows briefly touch distant fields, then move on. The afternoon heat begins to soften. A breeze arrives from the river. Travelers smile. Workers straighten their backs. The entire landing seems to breathe more easily. The rope keeper welcomes the change. His body feels tired. The cooler air helps. A group of children gathers near the shore while waiting with their parents. One throws a small pebble into the water. Another points excitedly toward a bird gliding overhead. The rope keeper watches them briefly. Children often notice things adults overlook. The shape of clouds. Patterns in the water. Interesting stones. Strange insects. The world remains new to them. There is something peaceful about witnessing such simple curiosity. The evening approaches. Golden light returns to the valley. The harsh brightness of midday fades into softer colors. Palm trees cast long shadows once again. The river glows beneath the setting sun. The rope keeper feels the familiar weight of fatigue. Not unpleasant. Not overwhelming. Simply the natural result of a long day's labor. The ferry grows busy with returning workers. Farmers carry tools home. Craftsmen transport supplies. Families gather belongings after visiting relatives. Everyone seems eager for evening meals and rest. The rope keeper assists them all. One final crossing. Then another. Then another. The sun descends lower. Orange light spreads across the water. Birds fly toward nesting places. Smoke begins rising from village cooking fires. The scent of baking bread drifts across the riverbank. The day nears its end. At last the final passengers step ashore. The rope keeper secures the ferry carefully. His hands perform familiar motions without hesitation. Check the knots. Inspect the lines. Prepare everything for tomorrow. The routine brings satisfaction. A day completed properly feels rewarding. The landing gradually empties. Voices fade. Footsteps disappear into the village. Darkness gathers across the Nile. The first stars appear overhead. The rope keeper remains beside the water for a moment. The evening breeze cools his skin. The river whispers softly against the shore. Across the water, lamps glow warmly inside distant homes. Families are gathering. Meals are being shared. Stories are being told. The rope keeper turns toward home. His sandals press gently into the dusty path. Behind him, the Nile continues flowing beneath the stars, carrying the reflections of countless lights as another peaceful night settles over the ancient valley. The next morning begins with the scent of damp river mud carried gently through the darkness. The rope keeper wakes before dawn, just as he has on thousands of mornings before. For a few quiet moments he remains lying still, listening to the sounds of the sleeping village. A faint breeze slips through the doorway. Somewhere outside, a donkey shifts its weight and exhales softly. Farther away, beyond the mudbrick homes and narrow pathways, the Nile continues its endless journey through the night. The sound of the river is never loud. It does not demand attention. It simply exists. Steady. Patient. Reliable. Like the rope keeper himself. The thought brings a small feeling of comfort. Slowly he rises and prepares for another day. The darkness outside feels gentle. Stars still fill much of the sky. Their reflections shimmer faintly upon the river. The air remains cool enough that each breath feels refreshing. Before long, the heat will return. But for now, the valley belongs to the quiet hours. As he walks toward the ferry landing, he notices small details that often go unseen during busy daylight hours. The shape of a palm tree against the stars. The texture of packed earth beneath his sandals. The way moonlight catches the edge of a distant roof. The village seems larger at night. More mysterious. More peaceful. Every familiar place gains a different character beneath darkness. When he reaches the riverbank, he finds the Nile wrapped in a thin layer of mist. The water and sky seem almost connected. The horizon has disappeared. Only shades of gray and silver remain. The rope keeper pauses for a moment and watches. The scene feels dreamlike. If a traveler arrived from far away, they might think the world had become nothing but water and sky. Gradually, however, the eastern horizon begins to brighten. The separation returns. Land becomes visible. Reeds emerge from the mist. The outlines of boats sharpen. The world slowly rebuilds itself with the arrival of light. The rope keeper begins his inspection. His hands know exactly where to go. The ropes feel familiar beneath his fingers. Strong. Rough. Dependable. He examines every section carefully. Years have taught him that problems rarely appear all at once. Most begin small. A worn fiber. A weakened knot. A damaged post. Attention prevents trouble. Patience prevents accidents. The morning inspection remains one of the most important parts of his day. By the time the first birds begin singing, everything is ready. The ferry waits quietly beside the shore. The ropes are secure. The landing is prepared. Another day can begin. The first passengers arrive shortly after sunrise. An elderly woman carrying woven baskets. A young man transporting tools. Two brothers leading a donkey loaded with sacks of grain. The ferry crossing begins. Water ripples gently around the vessel. The rope keeper helps organize passengers and cargo. Everything moves smoothly. The routine has been practiced so many times that it feels almost effortless. Yet he knows how much effort truly lies beneath that appearance. Years of experience create smoothness. Years of repetition create confidence. The morning unfolds peacefully. Sunlight spreads across the Nile. The river glitters beneath golden rays. Birds circle above the reeds. Fishermen return from their work. Merchants begin their journeys. Farmers head toward fields. The valley awakens completely. The rope keeper watches people come and go. He often notices patterns. Certain faces appear every morning. Others only occasionally. Some travelers always arrive early. Others seem to hurry at the last moment. Human habits reveal themselves over time. A person who works beside a ferry learns many things simply through observation. One regular passenger is a potter who transports finished vessels several times each week. The rope keeper has watched him for years. The man always carries his pottery carefully. Always checks every piece before boarding. Always thanks those who help him. Small habits repeated over many years become part of a person's identity. The rope keeper appreciates such consistency. Perhaps because his own life is built upon it. As the morning grows brighter, more travelers arrive. A group of women carrying baskets of vegetables. Several laborers heading toward a construction project. A merchant transporting folded linen cloth. The landing becomes busy. Voices fill the air. Donkeys bray occasionally. Children ask questions. The ferry moves back and forth across the Nile. Again. And again. And again. The rhythm never feels hurried. The river sets the pace. Everything unfolds according to its flow. Near mid-morning, the rope keeper notices a small repair that requires attention. One section of rope shows slightly more wear than expected. Nothing serious. Nothing dangerous. But worth addressing. During a quieter moment between crossings, he carefully works on the area. His fingers move with practiced skill. The repair takes time. Not much. But enough to remind him why constant attention matters. Ropes, like many things in life, last longer when cared for regularly. Neglect turns small issues into large ones. The lesson applies far beyond ferry work. Though the rope keeper rarely thinks about such ideas directly, years of experience have taught them nonetheless. The sun climbs higher. The coolness of morning begins to disappear. Warm air settles across the valley. Workers seek water more frequently. Shade becomes more valuable. The rope keeper drinks deeply from a clay jar. The water feels cool against his throat. Nearby, a farmer sits beneath a shelter while waiting for the next crossing. His sandals are coated with dust. His clothing carries traces of dried mud from irrigation channels. The signs of labor are visible everywhere. Life beside the Nile demands effort. Yet it also rewards effort. Fields produce grain. Gardens produce vegetables. Fishing nets produce food. Hard work creates comfort. Perhaps not luxury, but comfort. And comfort is enough for many people. By midday, the heat has fully arrived. The river reflects brilliant sunlight. The air seems almost motionless. Even conversations become quieter. People conserve energy during the hottest hours. The rope keeper sits beneath shade whenever possible. A short rest. A few bites of bread. A handful of dates. Water. Then work again. The rhythm of the day resembles the rhythm of rowing. Effort. Pause. Effort. Pause. The balance matters. Too much effort leads to exhaustion. Too much rest leaves work unfinished. Experience teaches moderation. The afternoon passes slowly. A cargo boat travels downstream carrying sacks of grain. Its crew moves with calm efficiency. The rope keeper watches it disappear around a bend in the river. For a moment he imagines the places it may visit. Settlements farther north. Markets he has never seen. Landing areas with different faces but similar routines. The Nile connects countless communities. Each village feels unique. Yet all share certain similarities. The same dependence on water. The same respect for seasons. The same cycle of work and rest. The same need for cooperation. The afternoon heat eventually begins to soften. A breeze returns. The relief spreads across the riverbank. Travelers seem more cheerful. Children become more active. Birds reappear from sheltered areas. The valley awakens from its midday stillness. The rope keeper notices the change immediately. Even his own fatigue feels lighter. The final hours of daylight often carry a special feeling. Work is still happening. Yet the promise of evening is visible. The day is no longer stretching endlessly ahead. Instead, it is gradually folding itself toward rest. The ferry grows busy again. Workers return from fields. Craftsmen finish their daily tasks. Families travel home. The landing fills with familiar movement. The rope keeper helps a farmer load several baskets of onions. Then assists an elderly passenger stepping aboard. Then secures a collection of pottery jars. The tasks change constantly. The purpose remains the same. Help people cross safely. That is enough. As the sun approaches the horizon, the entire landscape transforms. Golden light washes across the valley. Palm trees cast long shadows. The Nile reflects warm colors that seem to change every moment. The rope keeper always enjoys this time of day. The heat fades. The light softens. The pace slows. Even conversations seem quieter. More thoughtful. A flock of birds passes overhead, flying toward distant nesting areas. Their silhouettes cross the glowing sky. For a few moments, everyone waiting near the landing seems to notice. Then the birds disappear. And life continues. Small moments of beauty arrive unexpectedly. Then drift away. The rope keeper has learned not to chase them. Only to appreciate them when they appear. The final crossing arrives. Passengers step ashore. Cargo is unloaded. The ferry returns to its resting place. The rope keeper secures the ropes carefully. Checks every connection. Inspects everything one final time. The day is complete. Darkness begins gathering across the valley. Cooking fires glow warmly throughout the village. The smell of bread drifts through the air. Families prepare evening meals. Children grow sleepy. Workers stretch tired muscles. The rope keeper stands beside the river for a moment before leaving. The first stars appear overhead. Their reflections shimmer upon the water. The Nile continues flowing quietly through the deepening night. Tomorrow will bring another dawn. Another inspection. Another series of crossings. Another day shaped by the steady rhythm of the river. For now, however, there is only evening. Only the cool breeze. Only the whisper of water against the shore. And beneath the ancient sky, the rope keeper begins his walk home through the peaceful darkness of the Nile Valley. The following morning arrives beneath a sky so clear that the stars seem brighter than usual. The rope keeper wakes before dawn and notices the quiet immediately. Some mornings begin with distant sounds. A fisherman preparing a boat. A donkey moving in its enclosure. A voice drifting through the darkness. Today there is almost nothing. The village rests deeply. Even the wind appears to be sleeping. For a few moments he remains still, listening to the silence. Silence has its own texture. Its own presence. It is never completely empty. Within it live tiny sounds that often go unnoticed during busy hours. The faint settling of a roof beam. The rustle of cloth. The distant murmur of flowing water. The rope keeper has spent so many years waking before dawn that he has learned to appreciate these small details. Eventually he rises. His joints feel stiff. His shoulders carry the familiar weight of accumulated labor. His hands remain rough from rope and water. The signs of his work accompany him everywhere. Yet there is comfort in that familiarity. A life spent performing useful tasks creates its own kind of peace. Outside, the air feels wonderfully cool. The sky stretches overhead like a dark blanket scattered with stars. The rope keeper begins walking toward the river. The pathway lies quiet before him. Mudbrick homes rest in shadow. Palm trees stand motionless. The entire village seems suspended between sleeping and waking. As he approaches the Nile, the scent of damp earth becomes stronger. The river always announces itself before it appears. The smell of water. The scent of reeds. The coolness carried by the breeze. These things arrive first. Then the river itself emerges from the darkness. Wide. Steady. Ancient. The rope keeper pauses at the shore. The water reflects the stars with remarkable clarity. Each ripple gently bends the reflected lights. The river appears to carry the heavens upon its surface. For a moment the scene feels endless. Water above. Water below. Stars everywhere. Then slowly, almost imperceptibly, dawn begins. A faint pale glow appears along the eastern horizon. The stars start fading. Birds awaken among the reeds. The world prepares itself for another day. The rope keeper begins his inspection. The routine remains unchanged. Hands moving along ropes. Eyes studying knots. Attention focused upon details. The work is repetitive. Yet repetition does not mean thoughtlessness. Every morning requires concentration. Every morning presents the possibility of discovering something new. Today everything appears sound. The ropes remain strong. The posts remain secure. The ferry rests exactly as it should. The rope keeper feels satisfied. Preparation completed. Another day ready to begin. Soon the first passengers arrive. A fisherman carrying empty baskets. A farmer transporting tools. A merchant leading a patient donkey loaded with supplies. The ferry begins its daily rhythm. The vessel pushes away from shore. Water ripples outward. Passengers gaze across the river. Some speak quietly. Others remain silent. The rope keeper has noticed that people often become reflective while crossing water. Perhaps it is the gentle movement. Perhaps it is the view. Perhaps it is simply the brief pause between one task and the next. Whatever the reason, ferry crossings often seem calmer than the roads leading to them. The morning unfolds gradually. Sunlight spreads across the valley. The river transforms into a ribbon of gold. Fields brighten. Palm leaves glow softly. The coolness of dawn lingers pleasantly. For now, the rope keeper moves steadily through his work. A basket secured. A knot adjusted. A passenger assisted. Years have refined his movements. Nothing feels rushed. Nothing feels wasted. Efficiency is not speed. Efficiency is knowing exactly what must be done. A group of young laborers arrives shortly after sunrise. Their energy stands in contrast to many older workers. They speak enthusiastically. Laugh easily. Move quickly. The rope keeper watches them board the ferry. He remembers seeing similar groups many years ago. Different faces. Different names. The same youthful confidence. Time changes people. Yet certain patterns remain. Every generation contains eager young workers beginning their lives. Every generation contains older workers carrying experience. The ferry carries them all equally. The morning becomes busier. Merchants transport goods. Farmers travel to fields. Craftsmen move materials between villages. The landing fills with activity. Voices rise and fall like waves. Children point toward boats. Donkeys wait patiently. The rope keeper remains at the center of it all. Not as a leader. Not as an important official. Simply as a dependable presence. Someone who ensures the crossing continues smoothly. Many people depend upon workers whose names they barely know. The rope keeper understands this. and he does not mind. Reliability matters more than recognition. As the sun climbs higher, warmth begins spreading across the valley. The cool air retreats. Shadows shorten. Travelers seek shade while waiting for crossings. The rope keeper drinks from a clay water jar. Its contents remain refreshingly cool. Nearby, several women discuss preparations for an upcoming family gathering. Their conversation drifts through the air while they wait. The rope keeper hears fragments. Food being prepared. Relatives expected to arrive. Sleeping arrangements for visitors. Such gatherings require planning. Ancient life often revolves around family. Not just immediate family. Large networks of relatives connected through marriage, friendship, and shared history. People rely upon one another, especially during difficult times. The ferry helps maintain those connections. A simple crossing can bring families together. Near mid-morning, a craftsman boards carrying beautifully woven baskets. The rope keeper admires them briefly. The weaving is precise. The patterns are even. Years of skill are visible in every strand. He often notices craftsmanship. Perhaps because ropes themselves require careful weaving. People who work with their hands tend to recognize good work in others. The baskets disappear across the river. Soon new passengers replace them. The day continues. Steady as ever. By midday, the heat becomes noticeable. The sun hangs high overhead. The river reflects brilliant light. The air feels heavy. Many travelers pause beneath shelters before continuing their journeys. The rope keeper joins them briefly. A simple meal waits in a cloth bundle. Bread. A few dates. Water. Nothing elaborate. Yet after hours of labor, it feels satisfying. Nearby, an elderly farmer sits quietly eating his own meal. Neither man speaks much. Conversation is not always necessary. Shared silence can feel comfortable too. Especially among people accustomed to hard work. The afternoon arrives slowly. The hottest hours stretch across the valley. Movement decreases. Activity slows. The ferry continues operating, though with fewer passengers. A messenger crosses carrying rolled documents. A shepherd guides several goats aboard. A merchant transports jars of oil. Small journeys continue despite the heat. Life never fully pauses. The rope keeper notices a slight breeze arriving from the south. The change is subtle, yet welcome. The air feels a little cooler. The river surface develops tiny ripples. Palm leaves begin moving gently. Everyone seems grateful. The afternoon becomes easier to endure. As the hours pass, the rope keeper reflects quietly upon how much of his life has been spent beside this river. Not in words. Not in detailed memories. Simply in a general awareness. Thousands of mornings. Thousands of crossings. Thousands of sunsets. The Nile has been present through all of them. The river has watched children grow into adults. Has watched buildings rise and crumble. Has watched entire generations come and go. Its patience seems endless. The thought feels comforting rather than sad. Everything changes. That is simply the nature of life. The river changes too. Yet somehow it also remains. The afternoon gradually softens. Shadows lengthen. Birds become active once more. Travelers return in greater numbers. The landing grows busy. Workers head home from fields. Craftsmen finish their daily tasks. Families gather belongings and begin evening journeys. The rope keeper moves steadily through the growing activity. Fatigue settles into his muscles. His feet feel heavy. His shoulders ache. Still, the sight of evening approaching lifts his spirits. The worst heat has passed. The day is winding toward rest. Golden sunlight spreads across the valley. The Nile glows like polished bronze. Palm trees cast long shadows over dusty pathways. Children laugh while waiting for the ferry. A dog wanders near the landing. Smoke rises from distant cooking fires. The scent of bread drifts through the air. Everything feels familiar. Comfortably familiar. The final crossings begin. Passengers board quietly. Most appear tired. Many have spent the entire day working beneath the sun. The rope keeper understands. His own body feels the same. Yet there is satisfaction in shared effort. The entire village has spent another day sustaining itself. Growing food. Building structures. Repairing tools. Transporting goods. Performing countless necessary tasks. Now evening offers its reward. Rest. The final passenger steps ashore. The ferry returns to its resting place. The rope keeper secures the ropes carefully. Every knot is checked. Every line inspected. Tomorrow's work begins with today's preparation. The routine remains unchanged. And because it remains unchanged, it can be trusted. Darkness settles across the Nile Valley. The first stars appear overhead. The river grows quiet once more. The rope keeper stands beside the shore for a final moment. A cool breeze touches his face. The water whispers softly against the landing. Across the river, scattered lamps glow in distant homes. Families gather around evening meals. Children drift toward sleep. The village settles into night. At last the rope keeper turns toward home, leaving the ferry secured beneath the stars while the great Nile continues its timeless journey through the peaceful darkness. The next morning begins with the distant sound of geese somewhere along the riverbank. Their calls drift through the darkness before fading once again into silence. The rope keeper opens his eyes and listens. For a moment he is unsure how far away the birds might be. Sound travels differently before dawn. The cool air seems to carry it farther. A voice can seem closer. A boat can seem farther away. The Nile Valley often feels larger during these quiet hours. The rope keeper sits up slowly. The familiar stiffness greets him as always. His muscles carry the memory of yesterday's work. And the work of the day before. And the work of countless years before that. Physical labor leaves its traces. Not all at once. But gradually. Like water smoothing a stone. The changes arrive slowly enough that they are rarely noticed. Until one morning a man realizes he rises a little more carefully than he once did. Outside, the stars remain bright. The sky is clear. The air feels cool against his skin. He steps into the sleeping village and begins the familiar walk toward the river. Most homes remain dark. The day has not yet started for the majority of people. Only a few workers move through the pre-dawn darkness. A baker carrying fuel. A fisherman transporting nets. A servant making an early journey to collect water. Their paths briefly cross. A greeting is exchanged. Then each continues toward their own responsibilities. The rope keeper reaches the Nile just as a thin band of silver appears above the eastern horizon. The river looks peaceful. Its surface moves with quiet confidence. Small ripples spread outward from unseen fish. Mist hangs low over certain sections of water. The sight feels unchanged from countless mornings before. Yet somehow it never becomes dull. Perhaps because the river itself is never truly the same. The water passing by today is not the water that passed yesterday. The current constantly renews itself. The rope keeper stands for a moment and watches. These few moments before work begins often feel valuable. Not because he is resting. Not because he is avoiding labor. Simply because they allow him to observe. The ancient world moves slowly enough that observation becomes part of daily life. There is time to notice birds. Time to notice clouds. Time to notice the changing color of water. Such things rarely seem important. Yet they quietly shape a person's experience of the world. Eventually he begins his inspection. The ropes appear strong. The fibers feel rough beneath his hands. The knots remain secure. The ferry waits patiently beside the landing. Everything is ready. As the eastern sky brightens, birds emerge from the reeds. Their calls spread across the valley. One voice becomes many. Soon the riverbank is alive with sound. The day awakens gradually. Never suddenly. Never all at once. The first passengers arrive shortly after sunrise. A farmer carrying irrigation tools. A merchant transporting baskets of onions. An elderly woman traveling to visit relatives across the river. The ferry begins operating. Water ripples against the hull. The vessel glides away from shore. The familiar rhythm returns. Crossing after crossing. Journey after journey. The rope keeper settles naturally into his work. The morning remains cool and pleasant. Sunlight spreads across the fields. The green strips of farmland beside the Nile glow brightly. Workers can already be seen moving among crops. From a distance they appear small. Tiny figures crossing the landscape. Yet each one is carrying out tasks that matter deeply. Planting. Harvesting. Repairing. Building. The rope keeper often thinks about how much work surrounds him. Every object has passed through someone's hands. Every loaf of bread. Every basket. Every piece of linen. Every boat. Nothing appears by itself. Everything requires effort. The morning grows busier. More passengers arrive. A potter transporting newly fired vessels. Several shepherds moving animals across the river. A carpenter carrying carefully shaped pieces of wood. The landing fills with activity. Voices drift through the air. Children ask questions. Merchants discuss prices. Farmers discuss water levels. The rope keeper hears fragments of dozens of conversations. Most disappear from memory almost immediately. Yet together they create the sound of ordinary life. A sound far more common than the stories preserved by scribes. Most people spend their lives discussing practical things. Food. Weather. Family. Work. The concerns of daily living. These concerns rarely become history. Yet they form the foundation beneath everything else. Near mid-morning, a fisherman arrives with a particularly successful catch. Several baskets are filled with fish. Their scales shimmer brightly in the sunlight. The fisherman appears pleased. Not excited. Simply satisfied. A good night's work has produced results. The rope keeper helps arrange the baskets aboard the ferry. The smell of river water and fresh fish briefly fills the air. Soon the fisherman is crossing toward the market. Another small success story traveling quietly through the valley. The sun climbs higher. Warmth spreads across the landscape. Shadows begin shrinking. Workers seek water more frequently. The rope keeper pauses briefly to drink from a clay jar. The cool water feels refreshing. Nearby, a group of young workers discusses plans for repairing part of a storage building. Their conversation is practical. Measurements. Materials. Labor. Ancient life depends heavily upon maintenance. Buildings require care. Tools require care. Boats require care. The rope keeper understands this better than most. His entire profession revolves around preventing problems before they appear. By midday, the heat settles firmly over the valley. The air grows heavier. Movement slows. Even conversation seems softer. People conserve energy. The rope keeper finds shade beneath a woven shelter. Its shadow is narrow but welcome. Several travelers rest nearby while waiting for crossings. No one speaks much. The heat encourages silence. Instead, people focus on eating simple meals and drinking water. Bread. Dates. Vegetables. Occasionally fish. The foods are familiar. Reliable. The same foods that have sustained generations beside the Nile. The rope keeper unwraps his own meal. Nothing elaborate. Yet entirely satisfying. The afternoon arrives slowly. The river reflects brilliant sunlight. The landscape seems almost motionless beneath the heat. A shepherd boards the ferry with several goats. The animals seem reluctant at first. One pauses near the edge of the landing. Another pulls gently against its rope. Eventually they board. The crossing proceeds smoothly. Several passengers smile quietly at the familiar challenge. Animals have their own opinions about travel. The rope keeper has learned this through years of observation. Donkeys. Goats. Sheep. Each behaves differently. Each requires patience. Patience solves many problems beside the river. The afternoon continues. Hours drift past. The ferry moves steadily. Back and forth. Back and forth. The repetition feels almost like breathing. The rope keeper rarely thinks about individual crossings anymore. Instead, he experiences the flow of the day itself. The movement of people. The changing position of the sun. The gradual transition from morning to evening. Life beside the Nile often feels cyclical rather than linear. Everything returns. Dawn returns. Heat returns. Evening returns. The river continues. As the hottest hours begin to fade, a breeze arrives from across the water. The change is immediate. Palm leaves stir. Travelers straighten their backs. Birds emerge from shaded areas. The entire valley seems grateful. The rope keeper certainly is. The cooler air eases the weight of fatigue. Work becomes more comfortable. The evening rush soon begins. Workers return from fields. Craftsmen close workshops. Families complete journeys delayed during midday heat. The landing grows lively once more. Voices rise. Children laugh. Donkeys carry supplies home. The ferry becomes busy. The rope keeper moves steadily from task to task. Helping passengers. Checking ropes. Securing cargo. His movements remain calm despite the activity. Years of experience have taught him that calmness saves energy. There is no need to hurry. The river has its own pace. The best workers learn to move with it. Golden sunlight spreads across the Nile. The water glows softly. Long shadows stretch across the riverbank. The evening air carries the scent of cooking fires. Somewhere nearby, fresh bread is baking. The smell drifts through the village. Warm. Comforting. Familiar. The rope keeper feels hunger stir slightly. Soon he will return home. Soon the day's labor will be finished. The thought feels pleasant. Not because he dislikes his work, but because rest always feels sweetest after effort. The final crossings arrive. Passengers step ashore. Cargo is unloaded. The ferry returns to its resting place. The rope keeper secures every rope carefully. Checks every knot. Inspects every connection. The routine remains unchanged. And that consistency provides reassurance. Everything is ready for tomorrow. Darkness begins spreading across the valley. The sky deepens from gold to purple. Then from purple to deep blue. Stars appear one by one overhead. The river reflects them faintly. The village settles into evening. Families gather. Meals are shared. Children grow sleepy. Workers stretch tired muscles. The rope keeper stands beside the Nile for a final moment before leaving. A gentle breeze moves across the water. The sound of the current remains soft and steady. Just as it was yesterday. Just as it will be tomorrow. Then he turns toward home, walking slowly through the warm glow of evening lamps while the ancient river continues flowing silently beneath the stars. Now the week has gently come to rest. The rope keeper has finished another long series of mornings beside the river. Another collection of quiet dawns. Another collection of ferry crossings. Another collection of evenings filled with warm light and drifting smoke from cooking fires. Nothing remarkable has happened. No great battle has been fought. No monument has been raised. No king has passed through the village. And yet, like countless ordinary weeks before it, this one has mattered. The Nile continues flowing beneath the stars. The ferry rests quietly at its landing. The ropes are secured for the night. The wooden posts stand firm beside the shore. Everything waits peacefully for another sunrise that no longer needs to be described. The village has grown silent. The last conversations have faded. The last cooking fires burn low. Families sleep behind mudbrick walls. Children dream beneath woven blankets. Farmers rest tired backs. Fishermen rest tired arms. Craftsmen rest tired hands. And the rope keeper sleeps among them. Outside, moonlight settles gently across the Nile Valley. The river reflects pale silver light. Palm trees sway softly in the night breeze. Reeds whisper at the water's edge. A distant bird calls once. Then silence returns. The great river moves onward through darkness. Past fields resting beneath the stars. Past sleeping villages. Past quiet boats tied to wooden posts. Its waters continue their endless journey, just as they have for generations beyond counting. The rope keeper no longer watches. The ferry no longer moves. The roads are empty. The workshops are still. The ovens have cooled. The day's labor has dissolved into memory. Only the peaceful sounds of the night remain. The gentle murmur of water. The soft movement of wind. The quiet breathing of a sleeping world. And as the stars slowly drift across the sky above ancient Egypt, the village settles deeper into rest. The Nile continues flowing. The moon continues shining. The darkness grows calm and comfortable. Everything becomes slower, quieter, softer, until there is only the river, only the night, only the distant whisper of water moving through the ancient world. And beneath those timeless stars, beside the patient Nile, sleep comes gently at last.